Hello and welcome to another edition of Happenings.
Really is all about and bringing the community to the school.
We're in the schools, developing relationships with students, with parents. No, we just taped a show on that.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Happenings in the Dearborn Public Schools. I'm David Mustonen, Director of Communications for the Dearborn Public Schools. Joining me, as always, our Superintendent, Dr. Maleyko. Glenn, how are you?
Doing very well, David.
Great.
Everything's
great.
going well. How are you
Good.
doing?
Good. Now, we're taping the show. It's just after Thanksgiving. There might be some discussion about who's the turkey and who's not, but we're going to let that slide.
There's a few in here.
There's a few. There's always a few. Occasionally. So anyway, who does the cooking at the Maleyko
That
household
would be
there?
me.
So,
It's either
really
the Lions game or going and doing the cooking. In the last several years, I've actually done the cooking and have been doing it for many years, actually. I like roasts, and I used to bring it to my students at Salina back in the day.
Okay.
And so it is safe to try it. If you want, next year I'll have to sign you up.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe a spin-off show. Soup with the Superintendent. What do you think?
That sounds great.
Something like that?
Yeah, we could. I think so.
I like it.
If we
I like
got to negotiate a good contract.
Well, of course, that always comes into play. We'll work in that.
All right.
All right, but now,
I'm in.
okay, you're in. We're in.
All right.
All right. The last time we were talking feeder schools, we're talking soup, but now we're going to just get right down to the nuts and bolts of things and talk about school improvement, the school improvement process, and what that's all about here in the Dearborn Public Schools.
So we have Fatme Faraj, the Director of School Improvement, and Hilda Irani, your instructional coach, who are here. And so basically, this has evolved over time, and I'm going to kind of let Fatme, go in and really talk about what the current process is. But it started back in 2006 under three superintendents ago, Dr. John Artis, and it's really evolved over time. I know that you found some old video footage that we put up on YouTube. I actually shared that with Dr. Artis to send it to him, and he saw it was kind of neat to see a blast from the past, I guess. But anyways, Director Faraj, what is the current process that we're implementing? And I would just like to state, too, that this is not a gotcha process. This is just really authentically to try and help improve. It's meant to be used by the school to help improve the quality of teaching and learning instruction in the school.
Of course. Our school improvement process is based on best practices and based on research-based models as well. Like Dr. Maleyko said, it's been in place since 2006, and we walked the classrooms for several years and looked for best practices and areas to improve in. For the last 2 years, I would say that the process evolved to be more specific and more targeted on specific strategies that reflect any school improvement plan that any school can set for themselves. For example, when we started using a rubric that was created last year, and we also go back and forth, call it a rubric because it does have indicators that help us look through the same lens when we walk into the classrooms. And we also call it a growth tool because it helps me as a building principal look and identify based on the walkthrough feedback what areas I need to improve in terms of student applications and what areas are strengths areas that I need to maintain. Again, this tool reduces the impact of using only one measure, which is not good in our field to use one measure and base everything we do on that specific measure, such as NWA or M-STEP. What we call a triangulation in data in education is looking at 3 different sources of data. One of them is the growth tool, of course, and making sure that the gaps or the strengths reflect across 3 different measures so we can make sound decisions when we are helping our schools. This year we moved to a new model that Dr. Maleyko piloted 2 years ago in a couple schools, and he received positive feedback on the pilot, which is the unannounced model. The unannounced is different from what we used to do in the past in the way that schools do not know that we're visiting. When we visit a school, we allocate enough visitors so that from administrative from the administrative team as well as instructional staff who are trained in using the tool. And we walk the school, we walk into every single classroom for a minimum of 10 minutes. And we examine the practices focusing on the learner. We call it learner-centric because we want to focus on what the student is doing and how they're applying the learning that's supposedly happening. So schools do not know that we're visiting, and we walk in a team of 10 or 20 or 25, depending on how many we need based on the size of the school. And we take that tool with us, the growth tool or the rubric, and we look for the indicators to see if they're being implemented in the classroom. After we finish with the visit, we give a brief oral feedback, and then we send a written feedback to the building that's very specific and based on classroom evidence that the visitors have collected, and we send it to the principal. And the principal, in turn, will share with their staff, and they will discuss their next steps, and then also write us another feedback telling us what their next steps are.
Well, in your model too, this year that you started, both of you started to implement, is more efficient too. It's all in technology. So literally when I go in, I just use my phone to do all the ratings. And then, like we said, the teachers came up, I was getting feedback from teachers about doing the unannounced. So again, it's not a got you model. It's just something to let the school know what areas they're stronger in or what areas they might need to have some work in. We don't publicly display that. We give it back to the school. That's all we're giving it. We're not giving it to the committee. We're just giving it to them so they can look at it, use it as one data set. And I would just say too that you mentioned multiple measures. You know, if you look at any company or business, when they have a group that might come in and evaluate a business or auditors, they're going to walk in the school and talk to people. They're going to, you know, they're not going to just send a score necessarily from, you know, some place that they've never set foot in the school. And I know that's why the advanced ed does that as well. They come into our district. So it's just another counter, and it's really meant, you know, to show and to move towards improvement to help our students with their growth and achievement. Hilda, now you've come on board this year. And what is your role? And what are your thoughts now?
I'm a district instructional coach, so I spent 19 years at the building level, working in classrooms, working with teachers and students. And this year, I have the opportunity to visit all the classrooms in all 34 schools. So the school improvement process has been very rewarding, just to be able to see the best practices that are going on, ways that we can support our teachers, all of our new teachers, which we have quite a few of, and just to see the different initiatives in place and just taking parts of the rubric, like Fatme mentioned, that growth tool, and seeing it applied has been amazing. So it's been really good.
And one of the changes, I know you were saying that teachers don't, or not just the teachers, but the principals or any people on the committee don't know until that morning, right?
Yeah,
An
that's
hour.
right.
Top secret. She keeps it very top secret among 3 or
locked
4.
up and
I'm the only one that accidentally sometimes reveals where we're going, but we'll save that for another time, David. But do a very good job of doing that, and that's part of it is just to keep it authentic. And so I know that was one of the changes. So it's all electronic, high tech. People find out an hour before which school they're going to. The other thing I know, if you want to talk about, we had a new process, the data meetings, which we just got through almost all of the schools.
Again, with school improvement, we do use the classroom walkthroughs to collect evidence of learning. Along with in any school improvement process, you need to use, like we said, multiple measures, and we call it comprehensive needs assessment. The comprehensive needs assessment takes into consideration all the measures that the school uses to assess student learning. And since the model is unannounced this year, the principals and the administrative team in the building will not get the chance to talk about their data or present their data as part of the process as it used to be in the past. So we called what we have discussed is the data presentation. And the data presentation is taking all these tools and measures and analyzing them with their staff. One of the guidelines for this is to involve all the staff in the analysis, in the interpretation, and also in finding the implications for learning in the classroom. So once the staff has finished going through the data, analyzing it, and finding out what they need to do next, the administrative team will present the data to a panel of district cabinet members, and we also invite other principals to be in the process so that we can all learn from each other. So this year has been a very good process where they all came to central office and they presented their data actually and how they went through the process, what implications they have found, what next steps they need to do. So it's been a very good process. We've been receiving good feedback on this as well.
Well, I think too, I heard some feedback from the principals that, they weren't sure because this is something new. So everyone obviously might get a little nervous.
Sure.
But they did a really nice job. And I heard like Principal Higgins, I remember him saying from William Ford, it was really valuable because when you have to teach someone else, you really retain, you have a real good understanding. So you have to go with your team and work with your team, but then his ability to then present it. And again, it was kind of more of an informal, we're sitting around a table having a discussion, but I thought that they did a very nice job. For both of you too, we had a couple of exciting things as well. One was we had a national article, published article on this process in the district administration, which then led to both of you going, and we went to the Advanced Ed conference. And I know you and I co-presented, and you were there as well. I'll open it up to either of you. What was the experience with that, and Advanced Ed and their affiliation, what they do, and the experience at that conference?
I think what happened is one of the Advanced Ed co-chairs or state leader, she picked up on the article and she saw that we are implementing a model that translates into what they are trying to do. Because typically with Advanced Ed reviews, it's a lot of work in terms of preparation and providing artifacts that would align with their 7 standards and making sure that districts provide that to them when they come to do the review and accredit districts. Again, it's an organization that accredits districts and university nationwide. So when they do the accreditation, I believe that they felt through the years that it was an event. When people put together their displays and show it to them and then they leave and what happens after that. Our process moves away from the concept of an event to an authentic, continuous process that's taking place every day of the school year. And this is really what our process is. So when they read the article and they looked at how we do the process, then they invited us to present. And it really, truly translates into what's happening in the classroom. And that's the most important thing in any of the tasks that we do in the district is student is of the utmost importance in what we do.
How was your experience at the conference?
Well, it's been interesting because a lot of what the work that Fatme and you in the article put together was, it mirrors a lot what Advanced Ed is trying to implement. And apparently every 5 years they go through a change and revise their standards and their quality factors. So lucky us, we're up for a visit this year, this February.
Yes,
so when they come, we'll be, so we're preparing for that. And a lot of what we're already doing is what they expect. So it kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. At the same time, we want to make sure, we perform and provide them with the evidence and the artifacts and make sure that, it does follow up with what it was really good.
Well, and I have to really compliment what they're doing. I think now that we have Fatme, Ms. Faraj as a director, Ms. Irani, that have worked in the trenches, made a difference with students and have that work. Now they bring their expertise and the work that they're doing is sharing across the district. And they're doing it not just what they have, but they're collaborating. We talked before about the feeder model and the learning communities. And this is all about teamwork. It's a different philosophy. It's a way we operate together to try to make improvement. And I also want to commend them too, because I know that they're working. We have over 20% of our staff are in their first or second year teaching in the district.
I know one of them.
Yeah, yes, actually we do. So they're helping that fine young man out, and but we're in a transition in our district where that's going to continue. We're going to have people retiring, and we've increased, and there is issues with teacher shortages out there. So we're very competitive getting. So that's an important aspect. So that just kind of goes along with the teacher development model with school improvement. So we also have to take that into account that we have teachers that are not necessarily veteran when we're going through, and we do. Yeah. We understand that. We recognize that we have a lot of new teachers. So, but it's,
and again, this isn't about a gotcha tool. This is about how can we improve and make our schools better for everybody all the way around.
Definitely.
So, great. Good conversation.
Thank you
For sharing. That's some great information, great news, and just another way that we're kind of on that leading edge, right?
Absolutely.
When you've got a national accreditation company who's coming to you to say, you know what? We like what you're doing here. We want to share that with the rest of the country. That's pretty impressive. Hats off.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So,
All right. Well, wraps up another one. We're getting closer. Every time we're one step
close.
closer to that 50 mark. 50 shows. We're getting closer every time.
and we're going to do the countdown. I do have to do an update.
Okay.
We did. My children did find out about that game, the Little Caesars Arena. We went to the Caesars Arena.
Okay.
Remember, we were supposed to tape it after playing.
Yes.
Well, not because of the show. They found out through my wife. Okay. But anyway, we did have a nice time at Little Caesars Arena. Although the Wings are doing well, considering. But they just cannot win in overtime or in a shootout. We were actually at a shootout loss. So always have to throw in a little sports.
Well, absolutely. Well, we'll just have to start going to watch your kids play hockey.
Yeah. Oh.
Because that way,
There we
if
go.
we
Yeah.
want to look at a winning team.
There we go. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for stopping in for a few minutes. Remember, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on the superintendent's blog, on Channel 19. We're just all over the place because that's just what we do. We want to make sure that we get all the great news out about all the great things that are happening right here in the Dearborn Public Schools.